Hey, Bengals fans. Welcome to WDN today. I'm your host, Josh Isles. This is the Bengals podcast and site bringing you Bengals talk from a fan's perspective, me. Today on the show, I have a special guest joining me from Cincy Jungle and the Orange and Black Insider podcast, none other than Anthony Cosenza.
Josh.
Hello, Anthony.
How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Can you see and hear me okay?
Yeah, it seems all right so far.
Okay, awesome. Having a couple of internet issues, but I hope you can see and hear me. Thanks for having me on. How are things going?
Oh, they're going great, man. I'm just, inching along in this Bengals offseason, trying to get to opening day as soon as we can, right?
That's right. This is kind of the lull period, right? I mean, it's free agency, it's the draft, and then they're working out, they're doing some things, but this is kind of the letdown from the spring, I guess.
Right, exactly. It's you gotta reach for the things to talk about other than the Jesse Bates franchise tag.
Right.
But there's things there. There's a lot of exciting things going into the season. Obviously, a big highlight to things we fell short on last season was the offensive line. That was talked about for
right,
and beyond end, which for a reason. But we addressed that. We brought in guys like Alex Kappa, Ted Karras. Have young guys battling out the guards position. So we saw, I know you guys mentioned it yesterday, Alex Kappa out with a core injury right now. They're talking about it being pretty mild, I guess. There's actually an article up on SB Nation there by Jason. Is it how do you say the last name?
Jason Markham.
Markham, yeah. Yeah, Jason Markham put that up there, and just he had a core injury. They said it was minor, and he's only going to be out a couple weeks, I guess. I'm not really. It's not something that I'm like totally concerned about. What do you think?
Well, I mean, on the surface of things, it sounds like they're just being super precautionary. It's not anything that they're overly worried about. Sounds like it's going to be a couple weeks, and they're just kind of going to rest it and see what happens there. My issue is, Josh, is I've covered this team for a while. I've followed this team for a very long time, and I've seen some of these things. I guess it's just the old cynic in me. I've seen some of these things where it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And then it just slowly devolves, right? And then it becomes a big deal. And all of a sudden we need surgery. All of a sudden. So I'm trying not to go that far down the road yet. I'm trying not to kick the can that far down the road. But this is just something that I get a little nervous about, especially when you just got this guy, you just paid him a lot of money.
Yeah.
And right away there's an injury. Core things can be tricky. It can be just a little, a pulled muscle, and you just got to rest it. I mean, kind of like hamstrings and stuff. If you don't rest it, you don't treat it properly, it's just going to keep flaring up, and you don't want that. But my thing is, it sounds like it's not serious. It doesn't sound like any surgery or any kind of thing like that. It sounds like he's going to come back, but talk to me again in a couple weeks and see where this thing's at, and if he's back on the field and doing different things. Because
I agree with you, and plus, even like labeling it as a core injury is awfully vague. Like that can be a handful of different things.
Right. It's hard to know exactly what that is. My guess would be some sort of muscle strain or something to that effect. And again, you just need rest and treatment, and that's that. But I'm really going to be watching this pretty closely with fingers crossed, toes crossed, all kinds of stuff to make sure that, this isn't something that escalates into something more serious.
Absolutely. Because although we improve the line, if we have a couple injuries, we start to get thin again.
Right.
And so, we're looking at Kappa at right guard, and hopefully this all works out for him with the injury. But the left guard position is kind of the spot that's up for grabs on the line, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, that's the one they left open, and I think it's weird. A lot of folks kind of said, maybe why didn't they go a little higher in the draft? Why didn't they seek out maybe why didn't they seek out maybe a more true left guard or something to that effect in free agency? But I mean, I think this was kind of part of the plan. They knew they really needed a true right tackle, kind of a borderline franchise type of right tackle that you get in La'el Collins. They knew that they could get kind of those tier 2 guys in Karras and Kappa to shore up those other spots. Some people thought maybe you go Jason Redder free agency kicked Karras over to left guard because he's played there and done so at actually a little bit of a higher rate in the NFL, albeit a smaller sample size than at center. But the Bengals said this is our plan, and then we're going to let the guys we already have plus one mid-round pick from this year kind of duke it out and see what happens. And I really think in their heart of hearts they want Jackson Carman to win the spot. They want him to work out. He's a high pick investment, and they really liked what he could bring them in the draft. He's still a very young guy. I've said this a couple times on my show and other places that, Volson is a guy to watch for this one because, of the three guys who are supposedly vying for that spot, which would be Jackson Carman, Deontay Smith, and, Volson there, I think that Volson has the highest floor. So that I don't know if the big ceiling potentially of Carman or Deontay Smith, I don't know if that wins out, or if the high floor maybe a little bit more ready to play right now because of the extended college resume, older player, that sort of thing from Volson, maybe that wins out more immediately to give them the dividends they want. I know that Frank Pollock, based on the things I've seen and heard and sound bites from him, he seems to really like Volson. And so I'm really interested to see how that plays out, but it's kind of a three-man scrum there, and it sounds like Carmen's kind of got the lead right now, but we'll see when the pads come on and when the preseason games are played.
Yeah, it's really not a bad problem to have the three young guys battling out for the one spot that you really need to fill in the line, as opposed to last year where it was just holes all over.
If you look back to Zach Taylor's, even back to Zach Taylor's first year, last couple of years in the Marlins, look at kind of these lines of fielding then and the ones on paper that they have, the starting group have on paper right now. It's light years ahead. And the fact that they've got one position in question and you've got a second pick and two more picks essentially vying for it, that's a lot better situation we've seen over the past few training camps. And that includes Zach Taylor's earliest years and Marvin Lewis's last years. So, right. The key is now with these big pieces they've brought in, health. They have to have the same good fortune. And if you've probably read, it sounds like the Bengals had a really innovative approach to treating injury last year with Zach Taylor and this athletic training staff and whatnot. So really on that again this year. And hopefully we talk about things to ensure that that's not a long-term thing, but health is going to be the key now with some of these big guys on the line.
I agree. And health is like, I think, a big key to the entire last season and our success. It's almost asking too much to think that we'll be equally as healthy this year, I think. Obviously, I'm wishing for the best, but it happens in the NFL. We just got to hope that in the spots that we maybe lose a couple guys, we have the right guys that can step up in those spots.
It would seem they're a bit better positioned from a depth perspective, but it really depends on the position group.
Right.
Right.
No, absolutely.
Either players, quarterback, and
kind of choppy there.
Position groups where you've got your star player. Did I lose you?
No, you're just a little choppy.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, it depends on the shirts there and have major shirts that they had in the early years of Zach Taylor, some of the year in Marvin Lewis. You can't have the injuries to stars and whatnot, but it seems as that they're in a little bit better position to have a windfall there if some of these injuries do occur. But yeah, we could talk about the young players really hitting their stride last year and all kinds of, the stars aligning last year, but really the health piece was a big component to things.
Absolutely. And that depth kind of brings me to where I wanted to talk about our defense. And like, in my mind, I kind of see like from a grand scheme of things, our defense being undersold. And, everybody's talking about, rightfully so, Joe Burrow and this great offense and this improved offensive line and all these weapons. But over on the defense, we've got mainly pretty much the entire rotation or entire starting lineup is returning. If you swap out BJ Hill for Ogunjobi, and then we added these young super fast pieces. You have Joseph Asai coming back healthy. I think that the defense could be something that, like, we might put up 35, 40 points in some of these games, but the defense is going to win some of these games like they did in that playoff run.
I'm not in disagreement with you. And last year going into the season, my take was, look, if Burrow comes back and plays sort of at the level that we think he can play, even coming off the injury, if the offensive line was average, and if the defense was middle of the pack in all of the major statistical categories with, sacks and turnovers and all that kind of stuff, I think the Bengals could make a playoff push. Well, the offensive line still let them down in a lot of respects. Joe Mixon still had a good year behind them, though. But the defense really stepped up, and lo and behold, along with the offensive explosion, they went all the way to the Super Bowl behind both of those units. So this year, again, now with the additions on the offensive line, I think if you've got an above average offensive line, which it doesn't have to be tops in the league, but with the names you brought in, if they all stay healthy, you would think that is definitely attainable. And then, of course, if the defense takes some strides upward from where they were last year, which may be a little bit hard to do, but you've got some additions there. I'm really excited about Cam Taylor-Britt and Daxton Hill in that secondary. We'll have to see exactly what happens with Jesse Bates in the regular season there, but with those two guys coming in, providing some athleticism, some spark, again, you're talking about depth and whatnot. They're in a little bit better position at this point on the defensive side of the ball, conceivably, than they were last year, and that's saying something. Joseph Osai, I know he's still coming back from the injury, and he's doing kind of side work at OTAs and whatnot. But to me, it said a lot that the Bengals didn't necessarily go after edge rusher early in this draft, and weren't overly aggressive at edge rusher in free agency, because they like what they've got in him, and they've got some big plans with him. And then not only him, you've got Wyatt Hubert coming back. They were kind of bullish on him before he got injured. He was a 7th round pick last year. You've got a couple of others. Cam Sample got some time last year. You've got Khalid Kareem. A lot of these guys still to sort out, and maybe some of those guys are on the hot seat now. But Osai, to me, if he comes in, I see one of your live chat people there said Joseph Osai reminds me of a young Michael Johnson. I see a little bit of a higher athletic Carl Lawson in some respects there, a little bit more explosive. And if you can get a guy like Carl Lawson did in his first year, I think his first year, he had 8 or 9 sacks as a rotational guy. Mm-hmm. You can come in here as Joseph Osai in his second year, it's asking a lot, but if you can get a half a dozen sacks or more, I know sacks aren't the end all be all. Yeah. You're going to get pressures and all kinds of different things too. But if you can get kind of that threshold with him, along with Trey Hendrickson having at least somewhat similar of a season, Sam Hubbard coming, doing his usual solid work on the other side, you've now got this more solid rotational role rusher there. That's a big get, and then you can kind of plug and play with the rest of the guys from there. So I'm looking at that. I am looking at the vacancy left by Larry Ogunjobi, though. Mm-hmm. And that's a biggie. I'm glad they brought back BJ Hill. I wish there was a way that, something would have worked out with Ogunjobi. I know there was some consistency issues in the year with him, but those 7 sacks in the season, and he just played really well for this team in the role that they asked him to play. And, I'm a little worried. I think Zachary Carter is an interesting pick in the 3rd round. Maybe he'll provide something there, but you kind of knew what you had for the most part, even coming off of injury with Ogunjobi. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Bengals do from that standpoint. Someone else is going to have to stand up.
Yeah, Hill was nice in the time he played last year, but his number of snaps is probably going to increase significantly. So
yeah, he's going to be kind of the guy. But you're going to need, it was kind of like Ogunjobi was the early down guy for the most part. Hill would come in later. Now it's going to be Hill, you would think, conceivably on early downs, and then you're going to need someone else to come in there, and then obviously they'll want to mix up the looks. Hill will be out there on later downs occasionally as well with others, but I think there's going to be a little bit of a role reversal there for for some snaps in some situations.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean the D line is really interesting with all those young players you mentioned. They're all obviously a year more experienced, and Osai coming off the injury. It's going to be interesting on the D line. Is the three technique? I think is the biggest question, like you mentioned, definitely.
I'm worried about it, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and then so I don't imagine we're going to see Jesse Bates actually miss games this season for the Bengals. But say we get to that situation, he's choosing to bite the bullet and bite those paychecks and forfeit them.
Yeah,
which is crazy to think that you would give up $700,000 a game to 700 plus or whatever it was. What do we do at safety this year if that's the scenario? Are we sliding Dax Hill right into safety there, or?
I think that's the plan. I mean, he's getting number one reps with Bates out of camp, so I think that's the plan. You would see a little bit of a similar skill set. Dax has a little bit more of an ability to potentially play slot, maybe even boundary corner if you really, really need him to in a situation that not ideal probably at the pros. You kind of want him more in the slot or playing kind of that center fieldish safety role that Bates does just because of the range and the athleticism. But I mean, I guess it would be Hill. Yeah, I mean that's what you got to. Here's the thing that you worry about too. It's not just Dax and Hill, rookie Hill to climb and all of that. There is a synergy and a rapport built between Bates and Von Bell and other players on that defense. Mike Hilton speaks very, very highly of Jesse Bates, and he plays pretty closely with him being in that secondary group. Mm-hmm. So it's not just, you can kind of plug and play another athletic young kid in Dax Hill. Yeah, he could probably make some plays and do some nice things, and that would work out well for you in a lot of respects. But there's the rapport, the relationship that's already built on the field and in the locker room between Bates, Hilton, Awuzie, Von Bell, all of them, right? Yeah. So, and I think in an ideal world, what you would like to see happen is you have Bates back there, you have Bell there doing their specific roles and what they like to do, and then you have Dax Hill slide into, at least for the immediate future, into that Ricardo Allen kind of swingman role where you're a rangy guy, you're playing kind of slot corner, kind of a third safety in there to mix up the looks, and you kind of have all hands on deck that way. And then of course then Dax Hill kind of gets eased into the NFL a little bit more rather than thrown into there by fire. You've got one of the top safeties in the league back in your backfield. That's kind of the ideal situation there. I find it hard to believe that Bates would sit out regular season games. Yeah. But stranger things have happened, and he may look at some instances. I think Earl Thomas was one where he played on the franchise tag and ended up breaking his leg or tearing his knee or something like that. Yeah. A couple of games into the season, and he may say thanks, but no thanks. We've seen players kind of flex their muscle a little bit in terms of finances and contract stuff in recent years. So I don't really know exactly what's going to happen here. I would bet that he's going to play the regular season, but we probably won't see him until after Labor Day is my guess.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And that entire situation, you can't, I don't think you can blame either side of it. Like he's trying to protect himself and his career and the money he can make at his absolute prime. And the Bengals don't want to break the bank and maybe overinvest in one position when they have other positions they need to pay coming up. So,
yeah, and it's just not. I mean, Josh, you followed this team and covered this team for a while too. I mean, that there are certain positions that this team and this ownership group value over others, and safety and offensive guard, albeit they used a late first round pick on a safety / corner this year, and they paid a guard in free agency this year, but they value the tackles traditionally, they value the wide receivers, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks. I mean, there's just position groups that they favor over others, and safety is just not one that they put at the top of the list. And so when some of these safeties are getting crazy money that you see out there, Jamal Adams and the like, Jesse Bates wants to take advantage of that. And like you said, to his credit, he should take advantage of that. He was an all-pro, second-team all-pro in the 2020 season. So, he's got a resume out there that a lot of teams would like, so he wants to get paid. But it's just a matter of if the Bengals are willing to do that. And as of right now, they can't come to an agreement. So it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, we're about the 20-minute mark. I know that's we're around the time we had for today. Anything else you want to throw out there before we log off here?
No, I think we're all pretty excited to see how the Bengals rebound this year from that Super Bowl loss. It sounds weird to say rebound when you're talking about a Super Bowl appearance, but I think we're all pretty excited about where things are headed. And maybe this last year was the tip of the iceberg. I do worry a little bit about a hangover potentially with them losing the Super Bowl, but there seems to be a lot of mentally tough people in that locker room, a lot of people that can shake off negative plays or negative moments and rebound well from it. So I'm pretty excited to see exactly how this team follows up their year from last year when I assume, Josh, unless you were Bengals Super Bowl 2021, I was not quite there. I thought they would be a playoff team potentially. I did not think that they would be a Super Bowl team. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, including myself, say they arrived maybe a year or two early, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of interested to see how things play out this next year, and obviously the next couple. They do have some big contracts, as you said, coming up, down the pike. But for right now, they've set themselves up pretty well. Just got to stay healthy and got to have the right mindset after losing that Super Bowl, and maybe they'll come back and win one this year. We'll see.
Yeah, and it's absolutely okay with me if people continue to underestimate this team. Like, go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah. Keep sleeping on them, right?
Yeah, exactly. It worked for that entire playoff run. We got to the Super Bowl, lost by 3 when we were 5 wins the year before. So,
right.
Yeah. All right, Anthony. Well, I appreciate having you coming on my show. I'm definitely gonna come on with you sometime, and we'll keep talking some Bengals talk.
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna have you on early next week, so we'll talk then. But thanks for having me on. Hopefully, I wasn't too choppy with the audio and video stuff. Sorry, I'm having some network issues here, but hopefully, I still came through okay.
Yeah.
Loud and clear, and appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, primarily the audio was great. It was the video was just a little bouncy, but if I can hear you, that's fine.
All right. You don't need to see my ugly mug anyway. It's fine.
Hey, we're all ugly a little bit, All right, man. I appreciate you.
All right, take care, Josh. Talk to you soon, bud.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the show. Like he mentioned, I'll be on their show on, I believe, Tuesday, talking more Bengals. And then I'll probably be doing another show in the next week or two. Have some guests lined up. Let me know in the comments if you want to talk about anything in particular. Appreciate everybody. And make sure to follow WDN Today on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I think that's where we're all. Oh, and YouTube. Yeah. Subscribe on YouTube, please.